Hello, good evening. A man in his 40s has died in Lancashire after a tree fell on his van during Storm Dara. More than 100,000 homes are without power, mainly in Wales and in Northern Ireland. A wind gust of 93 miles an hour was recorded this morning in Wales, and there's been travel disruption across rail networks and at airports. Some sports fixtures have been cancelled as well, including the Merseyside derby between Everton and Liverpool. Here's Charlotte Gallagher.
The aftermath of Storm Dara. Workers removed the tree that came down in high winds and hit a van near Stoke-on-Trent. The driver, a man in his 40s, died at the scene. The storm has also brought flooding to parts of Wales, including here in Builth Wells, where cars have been almost totally submerged. In coastal southwest Wales, which saw winds of up to 90 miles an hour, a roof was ripped off a home. A fallen tree crushed this parked car in central Cardiff, while another blocked a road. Volunteers took out chainsaws to clear this tree in Carmarthenshire. It's been a difficult day for those wanting to travel, like these people at Bristol Templemead Station.
Trying to get to Cardiff for my mate's stag do. 3 have been cancelled so far, and the only one that's running, I think, is only a couple of garages. So there's going to be a lot of people fighting for one train. And hopefully I'll meet the boys here and we'll be on our way, but it's not looking too likely at the moment.
Well, I haven't seen my daughter for a while, and this is the first weekend I was going to get to see her. So I was planning to go to Swindon to go and see her, spend a day with her, but obviously with the trains that we are, I don't know what to do.
Flights have also been affected. There are delays, cancellations, and some very bumpy journeys.
That's how you do it.
In Northern Ireland, a chimney has been damaged at a major power station, while this ferry is currently stranded off the coast, unable to dock in Belfast because of the weather. A bus has crashed into a building in rural County Antrim. The driver was taken to hospital but has now been discharged. And the winds brought down this paramilitary mural in Belfast. It had read, "Prepared for peace, ready for war." Met Office warnings are still in place for some areas, with wet and very windy weather forecast until tomorrow evening. Charlotte Gallagher, BBC News.
And our correspondent Hal Griffith is in Cardiff for us now. And Hal, Wales really taking the brunt of this storm.
Yeah, although Storm Dara is still passing through, we've seen so much damage and debris already. And while the weather warnings are being downgraded from red to amber and now on to yellow, there is still real concern here. The winds may have dropped, but the rain keeps on coming onto highly saturated ground. So at the moment, there are 27 flood warnings on rivers in Wales and a further 70 flood alerts on rivers, including on this one on the River Ely in the western part of Cardiff. As you saw in Charlotte's report earlier, parts of Builth Wells in mid Wales have already been flooded. People will be anxious going into this evening and tomorrow morning. We've heard from the First Minister of Wales, Eluned Morgan, that people need to remain prepared and vigilant as this storm passes through. Already we've seen so many people flooded. Of the previous storms, this is the 4th named storm of the season so far and having clearly a damaging impact.
OK, Hal, thank you very much. Syrian rebels are reported to be closing in on the capital Damascus, with an unnamed US government official saying that the city appears to be falling suburb by suburb to rebel forces. The office of President Bashar al-Assad has denied reports that he's already fled. There's been heavy fighting in Homs, Syria's 3rd biggest city, as the rebels continue to make rapid advances in an offensive that has taken the Assad regime by surprise. Well, we can join our Middle East correspondent Hugo Bashega, who's in Turkey, close to the Syrian border. And Hugo, things moving really fast.
Yeah, Ben, this rebel offensive continues to make astonishing progress in Syria, and the capital Damascus appears increasingly under threat. So the rebels are making progress from the south. They've made significant advances in the last 24 hours. They had a symbolic victory when they captured Daraa, which is the birthplace of the anti-government protests in 2011 that were brutally repressed by the regime, and that led to the civil war. They're also progressing in the east and to the north they've reached now Homs. This is a key target, the country's third largest city. If Homs falls, the capital Damascus is isolated and the president will be in deep trouble. Now, in many parts of the country, the military is unable or unwilling to stop the rebels as they continue with what they say is an offensive to topple the regime.
Hugo, thank you very much indeed. Hugo Bashega reporting there from the Syrian border. In the last few minutes, firefighters in the Dutch city of The Hague say a survivor has been pulled from the rubble of an apartment block. At least 3 people have died and 3 others were injured when large explosions rocked the residential building early this morning. The cause of the blast is still being investigated. The West Ham striker Michail Antonio has been involved in a serious car accident. In a statement, the Premier League club said its thoughts and prayers were with his family and friends. The 34-year-old has made more than 20 appearances for Jamaica's national team, and he's been a key player for West Ham United in recent seasons. An attempt to impeach the South Korean president has failed after he caused outrage by declaring martial law earlier this week. Hundreds of thousands of people have taken part in a demonstration outside the parliament calling on Yoon Suk-yeol to resign. Our Seoul correspondent Jean Mackenzie has this report.
Pressed up against the gates of the parliament, watching, hoping for their president to be impeached. Stretching for miles, they'd come from all across the country to be here. These people are unable to forgive South Korea's president for inflicting chaos on their usually peaceful democracy. These scenes on Tuesday, reminiscent of South Korea's bloody era of military rule. This morning, the president appeared for the first time since to offer a fleeting apology. I acted out of desperation, and I'm sorry for the distress and disruption I caused. But as the vote in Parliament got underway, would his party inside the chamber stay loyal? Opposition members waited nervously before suddenly erupting.
Members of the ruling party have just started leaving the voting chamber, which is here. They have been walking out one by one. Now, they are saying that they are not going to vote at all. They are actually boycotting the entire impeachment proceeding.
Just as it looked like the vote would fail, members started returning to the chamber after facing the furious crowds outside. But not enough for the vote to go ahead. For now, the president survives. But these calls for him to resign are only going to get louder. Jean Mackenzie, BBC News, Seoul.
Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris officially reopens at a lavish ceremony in the next half an hour, 5 years after it was devastated by fire. World leaders are gathering there, including US President-elect Donald Trump and President Zelensky of Ukraine. Prince William is also a guest of honour. Well, our Paris correspondent Andrew Harding can join us now from Paris. Andrew.
Yes, good evening from the crowds outside Notre Dame Cathedral. That opening ceremony to begin in about half an hour. We know that Prince William will soon be on his way to the cathedral. And you mentioned Donald Trump and Vladimir Zelensky in town. They actually had a meeting, no doubt, to talk about the war in Ukraine about an hour ago. But tonight really is all about this building behind me, which is reopening now 5 years after so much of it was gutted by fire. An extraordinary effort, though, here to rebuild it. 2,000 craftsmen and women, a forest worth of oak trees cut down to rebuild the famous medieval roof. It is now looking, some say, better than new. And why all this attention on this one building? Well, it's because it occupies a special place in French hearts, in French culture. There is no building quite like it in Britain. People here really do say Notre Dame is the soul of France, and there is huge mood of celebration here tonight that it is, as many French people say, being reborn.
Andrew, thank you very much. Andrew Harding reporting. England's cricketers have a firm hold on the second test against New Zealand in Wellington. Outstanding performances from bowlers and batters on day 2 helped England bowl out their hosts for just 125 and then stretch their lead to a huge 533 runs. Here's Patrick Geary.
This was England's Super Saturday, a Wellington booting of New Zealand with bat and ball. The Kiwis were already in trouble when Gus Atkinson got involved. bowled, then caught. And with the third delivery in a row, LBW. A hat-trick, New Zealand all out 155 runs behind. Their only hope was to strike England quickly. They removed Zach Crawley, but in his place, Jacob Bethell, making runs as fast as he can. You can't catch him when he puts them there. Bethell was England's big gamble, but then little they do is safe. Ben Duckett included. They lifted the game beyond New Zealand. Bethell had never made a century in senior cricket, but was within a shot of doing it in a test match. Unfortunately, a bad shot. 96, still some effort. Joe Root and Ben Stokes added more ballast to the score. New Zealand already need a world record to win, and England's lead is still climbing. Patrick Geary, BBC News.
And that's it from us, but the news does continue here on BBC One as we join our colleagues across the nations and regions for a look at the news wherever you are. Do have a very good evening.